Hi, Bitcoin team. I found a Node.js application on the web, and I'm going to use it as an example to show you guys how Docker and Docker Compose works. I think if you get this understanding, solve the problems like one and how to migrate the database before start the Docker or why use Docker Compose if I can just use Docker by itself. I'm gonna try to explain why we like to use Docker Compose and how to run the migrate command before the application and something like that. First, if you want to get the code from this video, you can go here on this repository and I forked it from someone else. It's not mine. I just make the adjustments for for the Bitcode reality, right? Okay, let's get started. First, let me show you which files we have here. We have our application. This application is called address book. We have a Docker Compose that will be the last thing I'm gonna show you. We have the Docker file. You guys are familiar with it, so I'm gonna just show the code. And here is a PDF and explain how this guy made this application. I transformed it as PDF and save it as well. And the other one is not important, just the license and README. Let me get the Docker file. On the Docker file, you can see here, I'm starting using the node from Alpine. Alpine is a very small, with a very small, Alpine is an image with a very small footprint. It's very small, like 5 megabytes. So I'm getting this image. I'm copying the folder with the application I showed you, address book. Take note of this slash here because it's important. If you don't do this slash here, the Docker will copy this name here. So you gonna get slash opt slash app slash address book. And it not that I want. I want to get the content of this folder and put an opt app. So I'm gonna copy everything inside this folder and put here, taking out the word address book to make our Docker life more generic. Can work for this app, can work for other apps, can work for any apps. Here I'm doing some operational system preparation. I'm adding a user that I called app, and I'm making this guy here the owner of this folder I just copied here, right? Next, I'm setting this folder as my home folder. This is important. Everything I'm showing here is important to have in a Docker file, right? And now I'm telling the doc which port my application will listen. And finally, on this block, I'm telling the application, run this Docker as app. This is very important to make sure that you're not going to run your Docker as root user. So next, now I'm gonna create another one, but this time for the package itself. I'm installing the package, the node package from package.json file. And here I'm installing PM2. If you have this PM2 inside your package.json, we don't need this line, but I usually don't like to put PM2 inside it because you're gonna get maybe an older version, and using this command you make sure that you're gonna run the latest version. But you can do whatever please you, whatever make your boat floats, whatever make your boat float your boat. I think that's it. You got it. Okay, now I'm creating here. I saw that you use entry point. You use this here. It can work, but entry point is not for this purpose you are using. So I advise you to stop using entry point and just use CMD. To start, it's more simple, and is this what you need? And on the CMD, you pass the command separated in array. This command means npm run pm2. If I'm gonna run this command on my shell, so I need to separate here each command in one piece here. It's an array, right? You can pass together, but the good best practice said to use this way, so keep it in mind. Okay, we have our Docker file. Let's see if it's gonna work. Now you have the Docker file, you can make it just doing something like that. Docker build and -t to give the application name and calling it app. And with the Docker file that I have on this directory, I'm gonna build it. I did it before, so it was very fast. Let me remove it just to use. No, yeah, you're gonna get it later. So it's built. Now, before I start my application, let me show you just the package.json we have on address book here. I forgot. Sorry. Here we have scripts pm2 that I'm starting the web server. I have the start to run locally. I have the test to run jest. I have migrate, that one command you run. You try to run pm2 and next you try to run migrate, right? If you do this, it's not going to work because when we start this process, they stuck serving the page, so they will not get your migrate. So to fix that, you need to run migrate first, next pm2. But the easier way to do it is just create another entry here like this, migrate, then pm2. So I'm doing here, I'm calling here the same command of migrate. Oh, I can make it more easy to not repeat myself. Let me do this. Let's fix this. We can do this in npm run migrate. So, oh yeah, instead of call this one, then this one, we can create one and try doing both. So when I call this one, I will run the migrate, and next I will run the pm2. Okay. I just modify this file because it's better to avoid repetition. As I changed the file, I need to make my image again, right? So let me run the command build again. Every time you change something in your app, you need to build your image again. This time it's gonna take longer because Docker understand that some file changed and the tool needs to build the image again from zero. So this time gonna take a longer to run. Yeah, it's almost finished. Yeah, finish it. Awesome. Now let me try to start my application, but I'm gonna do this. I have here two terminals, one with a bigger font to read, and this one I'm gonna use to Postgre database, this one for the application. And let me start the application here, okay? To start the application, let me remember the command, Docker, yeah, this one, I ran it before. To start the application, you need to pass the port you want to open your machine, and the port application is listen. You need to pass the environment schema for the database, the user for the database, the password for the database, and the host for the database. Then you call your app. If you remember, when I call the app, and they're gonna run this command as default, like they're gonna start the pm2 as default. So let me start the application. Okay, we can see here it started. This is the pm2 thing, and everything good so far. Let me try to get something on the application. Let me try to get all users with this curl, simple curl. If I try to do that, I'm gonna get here an 500 error, and the main reason of this error is because the application tried to connect on my Postgre. I passed on this command here, dbhost, but this port is not opened. So we need to start the Postgre, right? I'm not going to finish this Docker. It started. I'm going to keep it running to explain you how it works. I'm going to choose the other terminal, and I'm going to start here the Postgre Docker. And to start the Postgre, we have to pass the environment Postgre user and the environment Postgre password and the port and the container name. So you got how many things you try to remember to make it work. You need to remember a lot of things to run here. You need to remember another other things. So you are the DevOps guy. You need to deal with 100, 200 apps. You think you're gonna remember this kind of thing for every app? I think not. That's why we use Docker Compose. I'm gonna show you later, but let me go it running here. So now I'm started my database. I think you have a database on AWS. If you have it, just point to it. You don't need this one. But I don't have it. I don't have access to your application. I have no idea what the needs of your application. But for this application, we need a Postgre. So I started one. Now I'm going back here to my application. You can see that I'm not finished. It's still running. And I'm going to repeat the same command again. The same command. Now I'm get another error. I'm get an error related to Squeezelize database error. Say I'm connecting to the database, but I can't run the SQL. This must be related to the migration step. I need to do the migration, right? To create the schema and the database. So to do it on this running container, what I can do is I can get the containers running. I have two, my Postgre and my app. I can go on this one here and run the migration, right? Let me do it. Docker run, and I pass the ID of the container and the command I need to run. That's why you remember I telling you about the entry point. You don't you if you use Docker with that command here, we need to pass something like that, and to take it out because the entry point will be always there. I can run commands directly because the entry point will be true. If you don't use it, you make your life easier. You don't need this, and you just need to change your command. This time is not run, is not npm run pm2, the default. This time I want to run the migrate, right? From the package.json. Let's run it. Oops, sorry. I think it's not run, it's exec, sorry. I sometimes I make a misunderstand of these two. I use run when I need to run exec, and sometimes exec when I need to. It's very. I have a bug on my mind. So now it's right. So if you start running the command and you get it something like that, you did it wrong. So you need to do exec, not the run. So the migration command worked. Now let's try our Postgre command again. This one. Now it worked. I can see here at 200 and I have no data. Let me try to put some data just to make sure that sorry, database is working. Let me add my name. I'm gonna add my name. First name Charles, last name Santos, on this endpoint here, and I'm gonna pipe the result on a JQ just to verify it. Okay, they accepted my put, and here I added it. Now we can run this command again to get all persons to see if it really worked. Let's do it. Yeah, It's there. Now I have a get, and this information is there with ID1. And if I want to delete it, I can call the del and pass in the ID of the person, right? Let me delete it. Yeah, accepted, deleted. And if I consult everyone again, I can see that I have no one. So to make this work, I needed to start the application Docker here. I need to start the database Docker here. I needed to run a command inside the Docker from the application that has the migration command. A lot of steps, a lot of steps. Let me stop here the application. A lot of steps with a lot of environments, right? A lot of steps with a lot of environments. It will be very, very hard to remember everything to run this way, and it will be very time consuming to document this kind of thing on Confluence. Normally, you don't need to do this kind of thing. That's where the Docker Compose comes into play. Let me show you the Docker Compose now, this guy here. Now you understand it, how Docker works. Let me show what is the purpose of Docker Compose. Let me open it. The version here, 3.3 is, I don't know if the latest one, but have everything I need. I'm creating here my service. I have two services. I have a Postgre, that the guy I started here on this terminal. And I'm passing the environment here. Can you see? The same environment I passed it here. I passed it here. And the port I opened here, I'm open it here. And for the app, I called it address book, but we can call app as well, no problem. And for the app, you can see here that I needed, if you recall right, you remember that I needed to build the image. So that's what I'm doing here. For the Postgre, I have a done image by Postgre company is reliable. I can use it. But for my application, I don't have an image yet. So I need to build one. And to build one, I call this way, build context this path using the default Docker file. And here on command, instead of let me run the default command. If you recall, the default command is this one, npm run pm2. This is default cmd, default command, something like that on my Docker file. I'm not going to put right here just to remember something like that. And I can change it here if I don't use entry point. I can change the command. And I don't want to run that command. I want to run this one, migrate pm2, because if you recall on my package.json here, I added it here, migrate pm2 doing this, calling the migrate, calling this one, and next calling the start my server, this one, right? That's why I put this here, to run both in one command, because Docker don't like two commands, three commands. You can do it using bash like you did, but sometimes it will fail, and if you don't understand that one process started and it's running and will never finish, the next command will never be executed. So the right way to do it, to deal with this kind of thing on Node.js, is creating and then try to do together here on your package.json. Okay? And here I'm passing, to run this, I need to pass the environments schema, the user, and password. I'm passing it here, and the host. But you can see here, in this case, I need to pass my real IP address. right? Because I started Postgre here, and I opened this port on my real machine. But for the Docker Compose, the containers can talk. If you have 10 containers, they can talk with each other, like all running on the same host. So instead of passing an IP here, I'm gonna pass the name of the service. You can recall here the name of the service is Postgre. So I'm gonna call it here Postgres. And this is very important, depends on. I'm gonna start the app, the service app, after the Postgres because there's no point starting my app before it. So I need to depend on it, right? Now I show you the Docker Compose. You have two options to start the Docker Compose. If you are running this application on your server, your final server, your user server, production server, you can call like this, Docker Compose. First, let's do the build. You need to do the build because if you remember, we need to build the image for the app. But normally in production, we don't build it. We get this image from our registry. This image made by some developer after doing the quality assurance, after doing the security stuff and testing from staging to production. But in this case here, I'm building mine. Let me build it. If you remember to build the command, to build the image, I have the build here. I need to pass the build -t to give a name for the app, and this guy here to get the local, the Docker file on this folder. Using Docker Compose, you just need to remember this command. Oops. This command. So that doesn't matter if you are working with app A, app B, app C. That will be the command to build everything you need, right? So it built. They did it for us. Now, next, let's start it. To start it on a production server, you can call it up-d to the dash. And I started my application, and now if I close this terminal, I log out from my server, my application will be running in background forever until something stop it, right? If I do Docker Compose ps, I can see that my application is running the app here on the port 3000, and my Postgres started on this port. So instead of doing uh, a lot of commands, a lot of environment settings, docker run dash p dash e dash e dash e, my application name, and docker run postgre dash e and the image name. I just need to remember this command here. Just one command for all application because you defined your application on Docker Compose, right? And if you tell me, oh, but I don't need to start the Postgre, I have the Postgre already. Can I still use the same Docker Compose? Of course you can. You just need to stop it. To stop a Docker, we did a up-d to run it in background to stop it down, and you're going to stop it and delete everything related to it. They remove it to not keep trash. And if you want to run just the app, you can call like that, up app, because you have your database already. And no such service. Oops, I think I can pass this like latest. Sorry. Here. So this time I did the same command, but instead of starting the Postgre and my application, I just started my app. If I do the Docker Compose PS here, you can see that I have my Okay, I made a little mistake here. They gonna run both because we did the dependence thing. If I run only app, let me down it. We need to run both because of this line here. That depends on. Let me comment this line just to show you. You can take it out. Let me save it. And let me do the same command again. Up just the app. I don't want the Postgre thing. Now, if I do the PS, you can see here, even if our Docker Compose has 2 servers, 10 servers, 100 servers, I started just the app. If I want to start app A, app B, app C, I just need to do a space here and call it app A space, app B space, right? Okay, and if I try to do the curl here, you're gonna see that it will. I'm not gonna do this to not make it longer, but if I try it, it's gonna fail because we don't have the. But let's do it. It's very fast. All here. It failed, but we can get any error here because uh, I think we need to see the logs here. To get the logs, to understand, I did a command, I get nothing. What happened? To get the logs when we start the application with -d, you can do something like docker compose logs. And you can see here the error. Okay? They don't have idea what Postgres is. So that's the error. Okay, let me stop. Yeah, I showed you how to show the logs, how to get errors. Let me stop here now. Docker compose down. The build of the Docker compose is because making it this way, it will run on my machine, it will run on your machine, it will run on Reg's machine, it will run on AWS machine. Like it's running here without change a thing. Doesn't matter if the system is macOS, doesn't matter if it's Windows, doesn't matter if it's Ubuntu, Mint, Red Hat, AWS operational system, doesn't matter. It's gonna work the same in all places. That's the build of the Docker and Docker Compose. That's why, as a DevOps, I recommend you to get used to it. Okay, we started our Docker Compose. Let me change back this change here. I can go back. And let me start now, but without running only one service and detaching it, I'm gonna up here because if I do this way, I can read the logs. It's very useful to debug. I start my application and I can see the logs on the screen. I can see here that the migration was called. When my application started, they called the migration. And next, after that, the application start my PM2 server, right? If I do the all here, you can see that this time worked, empty. If I add here, I can see add. If I get again, also, yeah, my applications work very well. And you can see here my PM2 is running just one instance. That's because the Docker recommends to use one instance for Docker, but if you are running a Docker on a machine with two CPUs, two virtual CPUs, and you are running only one Docker image, only this service, you can spin up two. To do this, let's stop the Docker Compose. To stop, just press Ctrl C. And you can edit the file from the application, the processes. This is the guide in the PM2. Instead of one instance, let's make two. Make it two. And let's start again. You can see that I'm gonna run the migration again. It's very important your database guy do something like that. Create table if not exists, because this migrate command will run every time, so they need to check if the table not exists already. This is something. There's no way to run migration conditionally, so you're gonna run it every time. So your migration script must take care of the things like that. Create table if not exists yet. And you can see here I changed a file, but it not worked. That's the beauty of doing things in real time. I changed the file, but I forgot to build the image again. Every time you change something, you need to build the image again to create a new image with the change, right? Let me do that. If you remember, Docker compose build. You can rebuild your image. Sorry, I'm not in my good days, but getting better. Okay, now you build it. Let me up it again. And this time you're gonna see two processes on PM2. Yeah, two processes inside a container, right? Without problem. And if I try here, it's working, no problem. Okay, that's it I have to show. I think with this video you can fix your problem running the two commands in your Docker file. I hope this video can help you guys to get better understanding why we need to use Docker wherever we have space to do it. Sometimes we don't have space, sometimes our boss don't want it, sometimes our boss like to do things in the old way. But as long as I know, as far as I know, I seen that Reg want to use Docker, and so Reg goes for it. You just need to get better understand, because if you start using Docker in the wrong way, you're gonna pass to your boss, to your dev team, that the tool is bad, that the tool doesn't work, that the tool create more problems than solutions. But much problem is because you are not using it right. Everyone in the world today uses Docker. Google uses it. Facebook uses it. Wise, Nubank, every big company, because it makes our life easier. And it's very more easier to remember this command instead of this one. No one can remember this one for 100 apps. No way. So Docker Compose comes into play to make it easier even to use Docker. So Docker and Docker Compose are really important matters that you guys need to try, need to play like I did here. Start a Docker, understand just the Docker, start the Postgre, understand just the Postgre, run commands inside the Docker like we did here with the exec command. You can run whatever command you need. Let me show you. Not just one. Let me open it. Let me start again. You can run whatever command you need, not this one. Let me show you. Let me get the Dockers here. Yes. I want to run commands inside the Postgre. I can call it here. Docker exec -it to go inside the container. I pass you can pass the name of the container or the ID. I think the ID is easier. And you can bash. Let's see if we have bash. Okay, we are on the container running bash. You can see what we have here. We can see what is the entry point for this application. And I think the data is somewhere here. You can a lot of things you can do here. Let me try just a find post Greece. uh, dash name. You can see here that we have all data inside here, the binary. Okay, and you can do it from outside as well. You can do a command like that, docker exec on this image. This time I just want to do ls. I did an ls inside my application. I want to see the content of this file inside my image. On this one here, I can run the cat and this file and get the content from inside my image and read it. Okay, that's the process env they are expecting. So uh, so far so good. I think that's it, guys. I hope this video can help you. And 35 minutes. Sorry for that long, but I just uh, uh, have in my mind that I needed to show you step by step, because reading Stack Overflow or the documentations on the web, the guys never starts from begin or the middle. They start from the questions, and sometimes you are missing something you need to understand first to next get the uh, Stack Overflow question. Okay, that's it. See ya. Bye bye.